Pokemon Discord version. Arc 5. Secrets of Nature. Wyvern Pass, Dragon's Den. Clan of Ancient Dragons.
I see the bridge,
Aiden says, out of breath in relief. The mid-daytime air was emitting intense heat. Aiden had been running for a while now through the miles of pathless plains.
It's amazing how we have this much energy still, even after a morning of ruthless training, right guys?
Aiden says to his partners Eevee and Zubat, desperately trying to make it to the bridge, as they would finally be able to rest. Eevee ran beside Aiden, with a darting readiness to defend its team at all costs, whilst Zubat flew above using its supersonic sonar to sense any nearby danger. Aiden had put together a few decent strategies and tricks within the three of them. Together, they were a formidable team with confidence in each other's individual and combined understandings.
Finally! We made it!
Aiden was exhausted, and he knew for a fact his Pokemon were as well. Zubat alerted Aiden of a nearby spot beside the river that surrounded the mountain's edge.
Zah! Zah!
It called out.
Lead the way, Zubat!
Aiden says as he and Eevee begin to follow Zubat. They make it to the riverside checkpoint. Aiden puts down his tarp and they rest for the time being, while doing some reconnaissance and observing the area's great geological change.
Wow, this place is seriously dangerous. I know Master Eldritch told me to cross the Dragon Bridge into Wyvern's Pass, but I don't think that bridge will even hold if we try crossing it. I guess we'll see when we get up to it,
Aiden says while trying to map out other courses of action, just in case the bridge was a no-go.
Well guys, are we all rested up and ready to go?
He asked his team.
Eevee! Zah!
They both replied with positivity in their voices.
Alright, let's do this then,
he says as they press onwards towards Dragon Bridge. While getting closer, all they can hear is loud and powerful rushing waters, with the monstrous waterfalls that fell from the mountaintops crashing below. The water fell into a curved ravine that dropped down easily over 200 feet.
Okay, this bridge looks really old and rickety, but if I return you guys to your Pokeballs, then it might be able to support my weight alone.
Aiden yells to his Pokemon over the roaring of the waterfalls. He then grabs Eevee and Zubat's Pokeballs from his belt and returns them promptly.
Plus, it'll be way safer this way for you guys,
he says as he clasps the Pokeballs back onto his belt. He takes a deep breath and begins to walk across the old bridge with the utmost of caution. He tried holding his breath with every shaky step, while simultaneously trying not to look down. Crack, crack. He stepped onto multiple planks that he cracked heavily while walking across them, holding on to the ropes that supported the sides of the bridge. Crack! Crash!
Oh no!
Aiden yells out as the plank beneath his foot cracked all the way through and fell out from under him. Aiden begins falling through the hole as he catches himself on one side of the ropes with one arm.
Ah! This is bad!
He says to himself while clutching onto the rope for his life.
Anzu! If there ever were a time to help, now would be that time, buddy! Come on, Anzu, please help!
He yells out, petrified, while looking down the 200-foot drop. Aiden hears no reply as he begins to question why he thought he could rely on Anzu in the first place. Aiden's grip begins loosening as fear and uncertainty washes over him, for if he lets go, he will surely perish a cruel, unforgiving death.
No! No!
Aiden's grip runs out as he struggles to reach the rope with his other hand.
No!
Aiden yells out as he lets go and begins to fall. Swoop! Swoosh! Suddenly Anzu appears in an instant, catching Aiden by his underarms using his burning black cloak that formed itself into wings. He then flies Aiden back up onto the bridge exactly where he was when he fell. Only one plank ahead.
Anzu?
Aiden yells as Anzu disappears into the shade, just as quickly as he previously appeared. His voice trails over. I told you I'm not going to hold your hand through all of this, kid. Next time you fall like that, you're on your own. Aiden shuddered as he looks down one more time, realizing that could have been his final moments in this realm.
Okay, I can do this. I just have to focus on the broken planks. It looks like every time I take a step, I crack a plank. If the plank is already cracked, it's gonna fall through like that last one. Alright, I know what I need to do. Here we go,
he says with confidence. He began to step on only the planks that looked like they had no cracks in them, ensuring his safe passage across the remainder of the bridge. He made it past the thick blanket of clouds that surrounded the mountains and saw where the bridge ended. Now, with his new algorithm of stepping, he made it gracefully across the bridge's remaining terror. At Dragon Bridge's end, there crashes the mightiest of waterfalls, effectively blocking the bridge's path.
Whoa, how am I gonna make it past this?
Aiden says out loud, hoping Anzu could hear him. Then suddenly, Anzu appears beside Aiden and says,
I'll show you one of my hidden moves. Stand back, kid.
Anzu holds one arm out in front of himself, with his palm facing the waterfall. He then took a deep breath, and the waterfall began to lift up, granting Aiden passage through its vast water body.
Whoa! How did... You know what? I'm not even gonna ask,
Aiden says as he is widely impressed. They walked through the waterfall and entered a small opening to the mountainside that looked like a man-made cavern. The cavern was dark as the waterfall fell back down, though as it darkened, Aiden could see bright neon green lighting from some mysterious-looking cave rocks.
Wow, this place is amazing,
Aiden said as he looked around the cavern at all of the wondrous natural beauty. Anzu allowed Aiden to look around while he briefed him on what was next.
Beyond this entrance is where the ancient dragon clan resides, kid. It is said that this clan has been around for about as long as nature itself has existed. You are to seek out Lord Crowley Lightsworn of the ancient dragon. He's the clan's leader and one of their most respected elders. So in other words, what he says goes. Up ahead through this cave, there will be a wide, sturdy set of doors. These doors obviously will be locked down tight. However, the lock to these specific doors aren't any ordinary locks. I assume your master gave you some kind of key, did he not?
Aiden thinks as he digs through his bag.
Could it be this?
He asks as he pulls out the note Master Eldridge gave him with the mysterious stone attached. Anzu immediately recognizes the stone and grabs it from the note. The stone was round and smooth with green, yellow, and black coloration that matched the patterns in the cave they stood in. They both walk up to the door and inspect it. Anzu then notices a small hole on the doors about the same size and shape of the stone.
Well, kid, there's only one way to find out,
he says to Aiden as he walks closer to the door and presses the small, mysterious stone into the door's keyhole. Push, slide, push, slide. Then the doors both pushed in different directions and slid down into the ground below.
Yes! We did it, Anzu! Huh? Anzu?
Aiden says as he realized that Anzu had disappeared again.
Figures,
Aiden says as he shrugs and continues down the long cave path, lit up by the bright green rocks and fluorescent mushrooms that lined its edges. He gets deeper into the cave and the smell of sweet flowers and fresh vegetation fill his nostrils. A pleasant yet confusing aroma fills the air.
That smell is so gorgeous. It smells like a whole garden of lush flowers and greenery. But how is that even possible in such a dark and damp place?
Aiden wondered to himself. As he walks, nothing can be seen except for the dim green lighting and the distant darkness. He walked for about 15 straight minutes until he came across a faint brightness at the end of the tunnel.
I think I see the entrance,
he said as he picked up his pace towards the end of the tunnel. Whoosh! Disembodied whispers. The sudden rush of wind through the cave startles Aiden and stops him in his tracks, as a deep coldness shivers down his spine.
Why have you Come, says an unnerving group of voices to Aiden. Huh? Who said that? Anzu? Please tell me that was you. He says in hopes that Anzu would yet again come to his beckoning call. Why have you come? The voices said again, with even more emphasis this time. Then, out of nowhere, the green fluorescent lighting went completely out, and the whole cave went pitch black. Whoa! Aiden yells. Before his eyes manifested an entity, one that was different from Anzu. One that formed itself into a spinning mass of distorted faces and whirling darkness. Why have you come? The entity wails and screams with many different trailing voices, with traces of pure hatred throughout its bellowing. Anzu! Aiden yells as the wind rapidly vortexed throughout the cave tunnel. Aiden puts his hand in front of his face to try and block the wind and advance towards the entity. As he did that, in front of the whirling, eerie entity formed an arm that looked exactly like Aiden's arm, posed in the exact same way as Aiden's. Aiden took a couple more steps closer. Then by the time he was almost face to face with the entity, he realized that the entity had created a doppelganger of Aiden, a sort of shadow Aiden. What? Is that me? Aiden said in extreme confusion. Shadow Aiden moved exactly as Aiden did, and copied everything he would do down to his predetermined coordinates. Quit copying me! Aiden says as he tried to move past Shadow Aiden, for he was now physically blocking Aiden's path into the dragon den. Fine, if you won't let me by, I'm just gonna have to go right through you! Aiden says out of patience for the shadow before him. Aiden takes 2 daggers from his pouch and throws them with intense speed, but as anticipated, Shadow Aiden did the same, effectively canceling out each other's daggers upon impact. Then, Aiden tried the same thing with explosive daggers, but again he was unsuccessful. Ah! Aiden runs up to Shadow Aiden, clashing daggers and blocking back-to-back attacks. How do I beat you? He yells in frustration, still refusing to summon his Pokemon out of worrying for their well-being. Aiden did not want to use his Pokemon to fight a battle with an entity like this. He believed doing so would be cruel and unusual when there aren't any other Pokemon involved in this battle. He also had always been taught to always try and subdue a spirit and never destroy them, to honor cosmic return and all-around balance. This isn't happening. This isn't possible. How do I fight myself? Aiden wonders to himself as he stares into the blank silhouette of Shadow Aiden's face. Then, abruptly, Shadow Aiden began to manifest even further. Aiden watches as his shadow begins to undergo a nightmarish metamorphosis. Shadow Aiden shakes with static-like movement. He also begins to grow and form a horrific mouth on its blank face with rows and rows of sharp yellow teeth. Why have you come? Shadow Aiden screeches with words like venom as he slowly moves closer to Aiden with static, eerie movement. Closer and closer. Shadow Aiden is now face to face with Aiden as he reaches his tentacle-like shadow arms towards him. Aiden is completely frozen and paralyzed with fear. He only watches as the horrendous shadow gets closer and closer to him slowly. Aiden is now entering a flashback. Lord Zonder, we must pull the clan back. The casualties are becoming too great for us to sustain any further. I'm sorry, my liege. We have failed, said Vetso, the advisor to Lord Zonder Lightsworn, Alpha of the Dragon Clan. I understand, Vetso. No need for apologies. Pull the remaining clan members back. The monsters have won this battle, said Lord Zonder. Only 2 months have passed since the fabled legendary Pokemon Groudon, god of land, and Kyogre, god of seas, returned to the earth and waged war on the humans for tormenting their domain. Already the loss sustained in every village civilization was greater than anyone would have imagined.
The ancient dragon clan had many difficult decisions to make, for they were known around the globe as powerful guardians of Pokemon and people. Many looked to the ancient clan for wisdom, guidance, and protection. Others even worshipped the clan as revered gods amongst men, as they were famed and favored by all of the surrounding villages. Lord Xander Lightsworn, a fearless and tenacious leader in Alpha, had led the Dragon Guardians to many famous victories where the lives of many people and Pokemon were spared thanks to them. Though they weren't the only ones who were looked up to famously as heroes throughout Agoria. There was another faction known by the people as Guardians and Protectors of Innocence, and they were at the time known as the Kingdom of Team Rocket. Led by Lord Zero Nova, this kingdom was known for their vast armies and wickedly powerful members. In addition to protection, the kingdom also offered the Pokemon Warriors Academy. This was a school for any and all who would ever want to join the fight in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves by taming wild Pokemon and training them to fight alongside the people instead of against them. Needless to say, these two factions were extraordinarily loved and celebrated as the benefit for mankind provided by them was limitless. It was rumored at one point to be meetings between the two factions in which they discussed merging the two groups together. After all, both of the group's leaders were twin brothers. The two lords and leaders of the supreme factions, Zero and Xander, walked similar but separate paths. They had nothing personally against each other until the night their father murdered their mother in cold blood when they were only children. On that tragic night, the two brothers witnessed the murder happen in their own home. In a split moment, they had two choices: run or stay and fight. Xander, who feared and complied with his father, wanted to run. However, Zero, who always rebelled and challenged his father's law, stayed to fight and defend his mother's honor. Zero, at the age of 11 years old, battled and killed his father that night while his brother Xander watched as his father was defeated by his twin brother in fair combat. Xander didn't know how to feel about this. He was torn between morality and vengeance. In addition to his tormented and impressionable mind being tainted from this, he also developed a jealousy-fueled resentment towards his twin brother Zero, for having witnessed his immense power against their father. Since then, they would go on to do great things separately, with that one night burned into the back of their minds, eternally preventing them from ever fighting together again. That is until now. Groudon and Kyogre mercilessly devastate the land and seas with no signs of stopping. The state the world is currently in is making both stubborn brothers finally begin to set aside their differences and come together in harmony to put these massive titans to rest once and for all. Together they fight to push back the opposition. Eventually they triumph over the beasts and send the deities back to the dimensions from which they came. This was the first time in history any human beings forced gods to their knees. History was truly made that day, however the brothers would still not set aside their differences. Fighting together only made their competitive natures and rivalries shine even brighter. Still fueled from the battle with the deities, they then turned to their blades on each other, engaging in full-on combat. The pillar-like tower they stood atop felt the full intensity of their battle, but remained standing throughout the whole thing. Their factions watched in dismay as their leaders battled for what seemed like no real reason at all. But they still watched. It went on for a while and neither one of them was making any headway. It's almost like neither of them had any intention of killing the other one. They only fought with the intention of dominance and nothing more. Finally, as their battle rages on, the sky cracks violently with thunder and lightning. The clouds open up and the rain begins to violently whip and twist with lightning. A creature from the skies begins to descend onto the battle on top of the sky pillar. Rayquaza, god of skies, Zero says, and the brothers back down and stop fighting. The deity descends with the weather forming around its body. It screeches as lightning strikes the center of the sky pillar in between the brothers, causing both brothers to feel the god connecting with them, trying to communicate and reach out. Rayquaza was grateful to the brothers for having defeated Groudon and Kyogre and sending them back to their respectful dimensions. The god granted Zero and Zonder its blessing and a part of its energies in the form of 2 small stones he bestowed onto them as a token of their valor and bravery. From this day forward, the 2 brothers never fought again. They were finally able to set aside their differences and join forces permanently. From this moment on, history was made, marking the clan of the Ancient Dragon and the kingdom of Team Rocket eternal allies. Aiden comes to and Shadow Aiden is gone. The winds only subtly roll through the tunnels.
These visions I'm having, I think I'm starting to make a little sense of them,
he says to himself.
You got that right, kid.
Anzu is leaning against the cave wall next to Aiden.
I can feel your connection with the spirit strengthening, kid. That last spirit was one of vengeance and jealousy. I'm sure your vision revealed something useful to you, did it not?
He said to Aiden.
Yeah, I saw a vision of 2 brothers. One was Lord Zero Nova, and the other was leader of the Dragon Clan at the time. I never knew any of that about him. Lord Zero has always been an inspiration to me. It was good to see into his past a little bit. I know when he locked the portal to Distortion World, he locked himself on the other side. Most people consider him a dead hero, someone who died for his people. But I still feel him. I feel like his spirit lives on through all of those who still carry his ideals and morality. I feel Lord Zero lives on through me, and everyone else who would protect those who cannot protect themselves. I vow from this moment on to never lose. That's a promise.
Aiden says with strength and determination in his words. Anzu disappears again, his voice carrying over.
That's a good attitude, kid. Keep that mentality fresh in your mind at all times. It'll bring you far. I know it will.
Aiden feels confidence surging through his body as he walks into the dragon's den.